This is the story I will tell. Wasn't sure if I wanted to share the story, but God has been speaking to me about my testimony, and I'm learning, of course, you can't have a testimony without a test. So here's my story. I turned 40 last year, and I knew it was going to be some hurdles. Turning 40, they say your body changes, you go through some stuff. I'm like, okay, just got to make some adjustments. In the midst of all of that, I kind of didn't think I would be hit with something like this, but long and behold, I would say in December of last year, I began to feel different physically, very weak in my arms, my legs, not understanding what was going on. I just thought it was all casualties of turning 40. So it just felt like my body was just doing what it does, and eventually I would adjust. And so and it wasn't getting better. And the type of work that I do, I'm getting in and out of a truck, I'm lifting heavy things. So it was becoming harder and harder. So I would say January, I began to test my muscles a little bit just to see where I was. I went to go do a push-up. I can do a push-up. I've done push-ups before. So I tested myself to do one push-up, and I fell on my face. I could not do a push-up. And I'm like, this is crazy to me. I'm talking to people that are in their 40s. I was like, yo, what is that? And people are trying to tell me, oh, it's just because you're getting older. They're like, okay. Still going about my day, thinking nothing of it. My husband and I have been talking about getting annual checkups. And I was like, well, I haven't done it probably a year, so I need to go get an annual checkup. And that changed everything at that annual checkup. So I still was kind of going on with my life. I had an appointment scheduled for February. So February came, I went to the appointment. They run all the tests. They do blood work. And she's like, that's normal, so we're going to do normal blood work and that kind of thing. And she asked me the question, is there anything going on with me that I want to tell her? And I was like, yeah, I'm dealing with a lot of muscle weakness, and I don't know what that is. I said I just turned 40, so I'm like, it's just, I'm thinking it's because I turned 40. She was like, okay, well, we'll run some tests, and this was on a Wednesday in February. I was like, okay, so we'll run the tests. This is when I went to see my primary care physician. So they ran the test. This was Wednesday. On Friday, she calls me and she says, you might have rhabdomyolysis. And I'm probably saying it right, I'm probably not saying it right, but I will put the spelling of it in the video. And I was like, okay, what is that? She was like, it's a muscle weakness. Usually people who go through marathon running, they get this and it just really weakens your muscles. And she was like, your CPK levels are off the charts. And I'm not even knowing what CPK is. So I'm like, she's just speaking a lot of stuff. I don't know what she's talking about. She's like, look, when it all boils down to it, you need to get to a hospital. And I was like, well, when? She was like, as soon as possible. I'm like, what? She was like, your liver enzymes are high, so you need to get to a hospital. So I was like, okay. My husband and I literally dropped everything after we got the call, and we get to the hospital. I tell the hospital what she told me. They get me in the back, and they see the results from my CPK levels. My CPK levels, you're supposed to be in between 32 and I believe 183 or something like that. I was at 8,000. So mine were completely off the charts. I got to the hospital. They were like, we're surprised you're not in liver failure, kidney failure. And I'm like, that ain't nothing but God to hear that with my levels being that high, I should have been in liver failure or kidney failure. I had no clue this was going on with my body. So listen to your body. If your body is saying something, listen to it. It's trying to tell you something. It's probably not just you're getting older. Anyway, I'm in the hospital. They put me off, get me in the back, immediately with rhabdomyolysis, and I'm probably saying it wrong, I'm sorry, you have to get on an IV. And I'm thinking I'll just get on this IV and my levels will go down and I go home. I was in the hospital for 5 days because even with the fluids, my levels weren't going down the way they wanted them to. I would say by maybe 2 days in the hospital, they had dropped down to 6,000. They're trending down, so that's a good sign. But it's still not enough for the doctors to be like, well, you can go home. I got all kinds of doctors coming to talk to me, saying a bunch of stuff, and I'm like, all right. And then in the moment, I'm not praying, because of course I'm praying, but I'm scared. Talking to my husband, talking to my brothers, my sisters, my mom, reaching out to my pastor, just doing all kinds of things to try to pray and get people praying for me, because we don't know what's going on. The doctors weren't 100% sure it was rhabdomyolysis, and so they had to do a bunch of tests. Because the levels weren't changing, they were like, it's probably something else. We're going to have to do some more blood work and that kind of thing. They were like, we're going to have a rheumatologist come see you. And I had never heard of a rheumatologist. I didn't know what it was. I didn't know what they did. I had never heard of a rheumatologist. So I'm like, okay, a rheumatologist is going to come see me. A rheumatologist comes and see me after they did all their work and stuff. And he is asking me he's just asking me what's going on. I'm telling him, like, look, I can barely lift my legs to get in the car. And I know I'm not in the best of shape, but I ain't in that bad of shape. I can't lift my leg to get in and out of a car. So he does the thing with my legs, and he's pushing down on my legs. And he's like, lift your leg. I'm like, I am. He's like, wow, okay. He said, so what we're going to do is we are going to run we're going to do an MRI on your legs and see if it's what I think it is, which is inflammation, because at this point they're kind of ruling out the rhabdomyolysis. They're like, we're not sure that that's what it is anymore. It could be something else. But the test results had not come back yet, so they weren't sure. So when we get they do the MRI on my leg, and I'm in the hospital. I'm still waiting on the results from that to come back. So we're just praying. Like I'm in there bawling, I'm crying, I'm talking to my kids, because my daughter and my son, when I went into the hospital, we were all just under the impression I was gonna come home that night. So I'm talking to my kids. It was hard to be separated from them. My daughter's, I thought you were coming home yesterday. You said you were coming home yesterday, then tomorrow, and then the day after that, and you haven't come home yet. So everybody's like, we're losing it. With these new possibilities of what's going on with me, it's like it didn't seem like it was going to be temporary anymore. So you get the MRI results back. Thank God it was inflammation in my legs and not something more, because he said if it wasn't inflammation, they would have had to do a biopsy of my thigh, which means they would have had to cut through and to get to the root, like dig deep and cut through the muscle and everything just to find out what it was. But thank God on the MRI, it did show a bunch of inflammation. So he came back to me and he said, it is probably, he said, I'm 95% sure it's an autoimmune disease called dermatomyositis. I can't pronounce it. I'll put it in the text. But it's in the family, the lupus family. And I'm like, because I heard of lupus, but I had never heard of this. So I'm just shocked and surprised as to what it is. So once he's 95% sure, they know how to treat it, put me on steroids, methotrexate, which methotrexate is long-term. So we had a plan in place. 5 days in, I can go home. And this is where we begin the process of healing. And I'll share the rest in another video. Be blessed.